Creature Commandos. This is a spoiler review, but this will also be kind of more of a quick review. Usually when I'm watching a show, I kind of decide ahead of time that I want to do a full review of it at some point, and I'll take notes and kind of go over my thoughts again before I do a review, but I didn't do that with this one. I think I kind of decided more last minute. I just give a quick thoughts on the show overall. Overall, it was pretty enjoyable, but I just didn't care for the structure. It starts off basically Suicide Squad, except they rush through it. I mean, the first 10 minutes of the episode 1, you're just getting the gist of every Suicide Squad movie, where you meet the team and here's the mission, they gotta fly out in this plane together and all the banter and all that. And it's just boom, 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 boom. You barely get a chance to meet the team. You barely know who Rick Flag Sr. is. It's okay, we're off. We're on this mission. So I thought the first episode was kind of weak in that way. I was like, okay, it's just a take on Suicide Squad. It's a lot of really odd needle drops. They went for this kind of European kind of feel. I know it's not a European band, but it's no one I ever heard of. When you do kind of more sillier, goofier needle drops like James Gunn usually uses, when you put over a live action, I think it works better. So there's a little bit silliness sometimes in some of these needle drops or irony, and when it's real people doing it, I think it kind of clicks a little better. When it's just a cartoon, I don't think it works as much usually. Animation itself, it's fine. I think it's well animated. The fight scenes are really good. There's some gore that's pretty detailed, done in a lot of detail. But I don't think the animation looks all that dramatically different from a Harley Quinn. If I was watching this and someone's like, oh, hey, it's a new episode of Harley Quinn, I'm like, oh, okay. I haven't seen them in episodes in a while, so all right, I buy it. Like I said, not saying it was bad, especially I watched this show after coming off Arcane, so after seeing some of the best animation out there and then going to this, I'm like, oh, it's fair. It tells the story overall. Once you get into the second episode, they do something that I think helps the show and it kind of hurts the show. It's basically every episode at this point, you get flashbacks and backstories on all the Creature Commandos. And it's great because you learn more about these characters. After the second episode, I'm like, okay, I really dig the bride and I dig her story and what she's been through. And they're all interesting. But as it goes on, I get more invested in the backstories and the real story. The real story is okay, they're supposed to protect this princess from Cersei, and then there's a twist that she's actually evil, and they got to take her out. And then there's this whole other twist that they might have been lied to, and she's actually innocent. And the mystery is not as strong as it should be. I'm like, do I care whether the princess is good or evil? I don't necessarily like her enough to care one way or another. But it's that story feels like it drags its feet a little bit, and there's not a lot to it. But then you come back to these origins, you're like, this is fantastic. G.I. Robot's story is really good. Weasel's is solid. Phosphorus is decent. They're pretty good. Frankenstein's is short. But overall, I was into those stories generally more than the present day stuff. And some days they meshed well. Some days the way they cut back and forth worked really well. But just their current modern day story, the present day story just wasn't as strong in comparison. Other than that, voice acting was okay. I think Amanda Waller was the weakest. It just felt like she was just kind of reading off the script. It just didn't feel like. I know sometimes regular actors have a hard time transitioning into animation. You get even Marvel's What If, they get the actual MCU actors, and it's just they're not. It's just not. They don't know that style acting, and they underplay it, and it's just not. It doesn't jump out at you. It's cool that they got the actor, and I think that's what helps Waller. It's it's a weak line reading, but since it's her, you give it a grain of salt. Well, at least it's the same actress. And then all the other characters are, seem to be a little bit more experienced doing voice work. Like I said, overall, as far as the characters, like I said, I really got to like the bride for the most part. G.I. Robot was fun. Weasel was just Weasel. Initially, I didn't like Eric Frankenstein. There was a really odd way they performed him. He actually had a pretty strong vocabulary, and he was still dumb in a way. He just didn't understand people. It's almost like, I don't know, it's almost like being autistic in a way. And he's got this, like I said, he knows words and he knows like certain things, but he doesn't understand like how reality functions and how people are interacting. He misreads everything. It's almost like a splash of Dragstone in there. And it's like a really weird line reading the way he does his character. That's real flat. And at first it's just like, again, it comes off as kind of like, well, David Harbour doesn't do a lot of voice work. It's a little weak. But as it goes on, it kind of builds, it kind of works with his character. It's just the way he talks. And I actually kind of started to dig him. And then the finale, another thing, the big thing about the show is it was the first new DC Universe property. It was supposed to be part of this brand new universe reboot. And I don't think it was weird because you see a shit ton of characters, you see like other monsters, you see other characters referenced. There's a whole dream sequence where you see like a lot of different characters and like dead superheroes, and they're really trying to tiptoe around not showing them because I know a lot of these looks weren't finalized yet, so there's a lot of shadows and it's slightly out of focus. And again, it reminded me of Harley Quinn a little bit when you jump in that show and everything's already established, like Batman and Nightwing and all these characters are there, and it's not really any kind of origin story. And it felt like that a little bit. It's just kind of weird jumping into this new universe that's already completely established. This seems way more established than the previous DC universe, and even more established than like the Arrowverse. It's like, oh yeah, family, any character you could think of in the comics is probably running around somewhere at this point. I thought that was, it's gonna be weird going forward, I think, especially when you just had this universe and it's like, no, we're rebooting. This is not what you guys just saw. This is all new, even though there's gonna be some similar actors popping up again. Another small gripe, it's weird that basically James Gunn, this is his show and he's taking over this universe and he's saying, yeah, all the old stuff, you can pretty much forget it, except for the most part, Suicide Squad 2 and Peacemaker Season 1 are more or less canon, and they're the two shows that he did. So it's like, yeah, the stuff I did, we're keeping, and then everything else is, it's out of here. Again, it's weird because you get a really quick Batman cameo, like an actual cameo, and they had to silhouette the hell out of it because they didn't decide on the costume yet, or obviously they don't know who's playing him yet. I think that just kind of like, I don't know, it's just kind of like having a stuntman show up play Batman like in the shadows somewhere, like the Arrowverse had to do a lot of times. Like, well, we're not allowed to use Batman, so here's a stuntman, and you can kind of see him in the background a little bit. And then the actual ending was good enough. It was a good enough twist where like, okay, Bride figures out that, Cersei was evil. Cersei was right the whole time. The princess was evil when she takes her out. There was a lot of clues that kind of popped up too, where it's like, well, what is this supposed to be? And they glossed over so quickly that I didn't catch it and moved on to other stuff. And it was cool when they brought it back. I was like, okay, it does make sense. It wasn't like they just whipped it up at the end and like you're like, oh, I never would have guessed. Like, so don't know where they go from here. I know they're doing another season. I don't know if these characters are going to pop up somewhere else first, like Superman. I think they intended these characters to be, reused in live action. That's why they even tweaked the designs and make it a little bit more feasible. Like, I think the Bride in the comics has 4 arms. Here they gave her 2. So I don't know. I said overall it was an enjoyable show. I think the structure was a little weak, and I think the plot itself was like enough to really carry the series as well as they would have helped, or they would have hoped, I should say. But I enjoy the characters. I love their backstories. It just sucks that, like, a couple of them, well, they only really killed one. They killed G.I. Robot and they brought him back. So we should be able to see most of them potentially pop up somewhere again. So that could be interesting, just possibly expensive because there'll be a lot of CGI from some of these characters. And I'm going to do this on the spot here for a rating out of scale 1 to 5. I'll give it a 3.5, somewhere in there. Like, I think if the main story was better, I could see giving it a 4. I just think there's stuff that James Gunn that works better in live action. It didn't work as well in the cartoon, and I think they said the animation wasn't all that great. I think I'll go with a 3. We'll give it a 3. So that's my quick, not as in-depth review of Creature Commandos. I have other reviews on my blog, soundofbettermyhead.com. I do movie reviews, TV reviews. Usually go a lot more detail on there. I got a comic strip I do. You can check that out. That'd be awesome if you did. But other than that, thanks for watching.